now. Oh, okay. Snohomish and Skagit and Camino Island. I did do this position for 2 years when it was housed at Homage though, so although I'm new, I'm not new. I'm very glad to be back. So
Great to have you
that's
back.
it.
What
Thank
do you need?
you.
What do you need out of the meeting to make it worthwhile?
Well, a little bit for me is just to meet meet the gang a little bit, I think. This is, I see names and emails and I don't really, I don't have names or any faces quite yet. So for me, this is good.
Okay. Well, great. You're the newest, but not for long. And we'll talk about that kind of transition when we get started. Good to see you. Dave DeWolf, do you want to be next? By the way, you still owe me royalties for name, image, likeness for your backdrop. Don't forget, please.
Yes, well, thank you for the photo. So David DeWolf, Island Senior Resources on Whidbey Island. I am still trying to learn all I can from Annette and everyone else. Currently in Burbank, I can report no snow here. And other than that, just learning what I can will make this successful.
Excellent. Lovely to have you. And shall we hear from your friend Annette Barca, your companion out there on Whidbey?
Yeah, I'm Annette, and I've just reached my 20-year mark as a volunteer, and I am a volunteer coordinator for those of you who don't know me. It's right now we're basically beginning to think about open enrollment and all the things we need to do in order to be ready for it, to have the kinds of events we need in places we need. We also have one volunteer who's working and creating a lot of resources for us, who is a Air Force veteran, and he's focusing a lot on how VA and Trifecare for Life can intermingle with Medicare and provide benefits for what amounts to be a fairly sizable portion of our population, especially on the north end of the island. It's an area where we've had a lot of requests for help over time, sometimes for people who are retiring, and oftentimes for many of the military will often have a dependent parent that needs Medicare. So it's a area that we are greatly looking at expanding, hopefully successfully throughout this year, and we'll probably hopefully reach a goodly number of them during open enrollment, if not before. The biggest thing we have is trying to make sure that, given the limited types of publicity that are available island based, is making sure that people know that we are available here on the island. They don't have to go off island to deal with a lot of the services that are available, because that's becoming more and more a challenge for some of us, given the ability of the bridge to have accidents and be blocked at times, and the ferries not to run.
That is so great. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, things are different on the island, right? And it's good for us to keep that in mind. Sam
And the
Stones,
same thing applies to San Juan Islands, if Peggy's not here.
it does. You can represent for Peggy as well. Yep. Morning, Sam. Good afternoon, Sam.
Morning. I'm Sam Stones. I use he, him pronouns, and I am at the Solid Ground location in King County. And I have been a program lead for about 3.5 years now. Right now we're kind of focusing on mentoring, the mentoring portion of the program. We just didn't have enough mentors historically to onboard new volunteers. And right now I'm doing a kind of roundtable discussion with the current mentors of how they mentor and what kind of support they need to maybe onboard some more mentors, and it's going very well. And we're kind of going over training materials and things that we can provide new volunteers with, and things that they expect the new volunteers to come with. And it's been very eye-opening, the discrepancies between them. So that's been very helpful. I think talking about mentoring in this meeting would be very helpful as well, if we're kind of shooting out some topics to discuss.
We are, and that's a perfect one. That's my very favorite one, most important one. And I'm not being facetious or flippant. I really mean that sincerely. It's a very most important thing. Good to see you, Sam. Thank you. You're doing great up there.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Sonia would like to be next.
I'm Sonia. I work out of Rural Resources out of the Northeast Washington. I cover Ferry, Pend Oreille, Stevens, and Lincoln County, all of the rural areas. And I've been here for 11 years.
Please say hello to Leanne for me.
I sure will.
Thank you. Pam Monahan, would you like to be next? I think you're the person that I've talked with most recently. We talked on Friday morning.
Yeah. Well, hello.
Hello,
Um,
hello again.
So I'm Pam Monahan, she, her pronouns, and I am with Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities of Southwest Washington. So we're down in the lower west corner of the state. And so we serve folks in Clark, Cowlitz, Wahkiakum, Skamania, and Klickitat counties. And I've been here with ADSWA because saying the whole name is a mouthful since December of 2022. So I just had a 2-year anniversary, and yeah, we have a wonderful team of volunteers, and doing an event later on this afternoon to hopefully welcome some more. So got about I think 14 people signed up to come for an information session. So yeah, so that's kind of exciting. So they a bulk of them responded to a direct mailer that Donna Wells designed. So beautiful, and yeah, we'll see if we can keep that momentum going, bringing in new volunteers to our SHIPA team. That's it.
I'm confident you will, and they'll have a great experience. You guys are doing great. Good afternoon, Julia. Would you like to be next?
Sure. I'm Julia Covert, she, her pronouns. I'm the Outreach and Enrollment Supervisor at Unity Care Northwest in Bellingham, Washington. So that's just the very top corner of Washington before you hit the sound. And so my team is Partners in Kind. So we serve our patients here at Unity Care, and we partner with Whatcom Sheba to connect community members for help with Medicare. I'm also working on some mentoring right now. We're a very small team, and I am currently mentoring 2 new in-kind partners. So I would just love to hear everybody else's experience with mentoring and sort of soak up some of that knowledge.
Excellent. Beautiful. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Morgan, would you like to be next?
Hello, Morgan Stonefield. I'm in Ellensburg, Kittitas County, and I work for Kittitas Health Network. And I'm really just kind of looking forward to seeing what people are doing for recruitment and volunteer onboarding. I have some coffee meetings set up with some potential volunteers and kind of seeing what folks, what their elevator pitch, so to speak, is, and how, what they find best for getting individuals to at least attend one of the initial trainings.
Excellent. Morgan, I need a favor from you. We talked to our friend Marianne Grafton from the Washington State Association of Senior Centers on Friday, and they're having their annual conference in Ellensburg. And I said I would reach out to you and Catherine and Carol and ask if you'd be willing to help with kind of conference setup stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I'll send you a note about some dates, times, but they would really appreciate some help. They're kind of skinny on support right now.
Okay, yeah, I have a lot of conference background, so I used to do that at my old job. So
thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Okay, Kelly Hudson, will you like to be next? The spirit is willing, but the technology not so much. Take your time. It'll all come in time.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Good. Had to get rid of those headphones. I can hear just fine, but nobody can hear me. Hi, everybody. Sorry I was a bit late. I was getting our deaf volunteer and a deaf client and her ASL interpreter all lined up in a room upstairs. So hopefully that's going well. I second what everybody said. Mentoring, yes, it's huge. That flyer was fantastic, but and I now have a lot of volunteers I need to get trained up, and not all my volunteers are in the office. So any conversations about that would be fantastic, and I'm happy to see you all.
Happy to see you. Nice to see you again. And Tammy Wheeler, will you like to be next?
I'm gonna keep the video thing off because I have kind of a crazy Monday going on right now. But so I'm Tammy Wheeler, the VC for the Pierce County area, and our sponsor is Sound Outreach. Been with Sheba for like 10 years, being the CSS for a while, and now the volunteer coordinator. And this is my first time joining our meeting because last time I was at a training, so I wasn't able to join. So I'm here to just hear everybody's else's ways of doing things. And so hopefully I also can add some input as well. So I look forward to today, and sorry, I'm kind of off the sidelines on the video.
That's okay. That's okay. We're super happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Marky, will you like to be next?
Hi, I'm Marky. I'm the Community Programs Manager here at Olympic Area Agency on Aging. I am here to pretty much listen and learn and report back to Eva when she is back in the office.
And if you talk to her, please tell her I'm thinking of her and wishing her well.
I will do so. Thank you.
And how about Mei Ling? Will you like to be next?
Hi there. Hello.
Hello.
This is Mei Ling Chen from Yakima County. I work with the Retired Volunteer Senior Program based out of the community college here, YVC. I've been volunteering for Sheba now for well over 20 years. And I'm just here to basically get on and make sure that I'm still online and in accordance to what we're supposed to be learning and sharing with our clients, and what's going on with the rest of the other agencies as well.
Excellent. Thank you for being here, and thank you for 20 years of service.
You're welcome. Have a good time. I do. I really enjoy this group and helping it.
Thank you. Okay, so how about staff people? Linda, will you like to start?
Sure. I'm Linda Diekman. I am the regional training coordinator for Colum, Jefferson, Grays Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Thurston, Clark, Wacoma, or Wahkiakum, Cowlitz, Skamania, and Clititas counties. Currently, I have Snohomish and Skagit counties as well, but I'm going to be transferring those over to Shannon, who you'll meet in a minute. So for a couple months, we're going to share, and then she'll take over.
Beautiful. So let's hear from Shannon next.
Hi, I'm Shannon Sky. I'm a regional training consultant. And so my role is very similar to Linda's, but I support Whatcom County, San Juan County, Island County, and Kitsap County. And like Linda said, soon to be Snohomish and Skagit counties. So glad to be here. And yeah, good to see you all.
And Camino Island.
And Camino Island. Yes, I'm officially Camino Island now, since that's part of, yes, thank you.
You're like an islander.
Yeah, I am.
Noreen, will you like to be next?
Sure, thank you. If I can get unmuted.
Sure.
I'm Noreen Bryson. I'm the RTC out in Spokane. So I support all of the sponsors east of the Cascades.
Excellent. And Rosie, how about for you next?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also an RTC and I support Pierce County. Glad to be here. Thanks for coming.
Happy to have you. Happy to have all of you here. And how about Kendra, will you like to be next?
Yes, and apologies. I thought I was on video this whole time. And I just learned that I'm not. Hi, I'm Kendra. I am the field supervisor with the Sheba program, and I am fortunate to work with the regional training consultant team. I do the administrative side of supporting our beloved sponsors and the volunteer coordinators and volunteers, and also our enhanced outreach contracts, our MIPA contracts. So just a quick heads up, we have some really cool projects that we're working on prior to, and of course, leading up to our open enrollment period. So I'm excited to share those as we get those off the ground. And it's so nice to see all of you. Thank you for being here today.
Great to be together. Amy, will you like to be next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy Fagoni. I'm the operations supervisor. What that means to you is, so we do kind of like back of the house daily operations. We take my little team, we take care of overflow calls, complex cases, and then I help with curriculum.
Perfect.
It is, and I think I know almost all of you, but it's so nice to see you. It's been a while.
And Amy has the distinction that she was a volunteer coordinator before she came over here, so she has a unique insight. And Elena, will you like to be next?
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheba Curriculum and Training Coordinator, which means I write the curriculum for most of the programs for CE, for basic training that's going to be on the learning management system, not the one that team is currently presenting, but the one that is going to be offered through Canvas system for Washington State University. And that's about it.
All right, that's a lot. And Ron, will you like to be next? And then we'll do Donna and Eve.
Good afternoon, all. Ron House, I'm the Grants and Contracts Coordinator. It's great to see all of you.
And then Donna.
Excuse me. Hi, everybody. Get my voice back. I'm Donna Wells, and I actually work in public affairs now, but I'm still attached to the Sheba program, and I do all the communications and outreach for the program. So nice to see you all today.
Hi, everyone. My name's Eve, and I'm the organizational coordinator, which means I help with the volunteer onboarding, and I also oversee all the Sheba databases, as well as helping the logistics behind the scenes with Tim's calendar and all that fun stuff. And I'm happy to be here today. Looking forward to getting to talk to y'all about all the new stuff we have planned.
Excellent. Eve, is it possible to get as a screen share, a copy of the colorful map that you have of the RTCs and regions?
Yeah, let me grab that from our website.
Okay. So super happy to be with you all. You know, it's that feeling like when you're with people who have the same, you know, interests and passion that you do and care about the same stuff that you do. It's nice to all be together and kind of have that good energetic feeling. So I want to just, before we launch into the part of the agenda that's about training and mentoring and LMS, I want to just do a quick review. As Eve said, part of what we're hoping to accomplish today is just give you a little bit of a sense of a preview about kind of where we're at, where we're going. Obviously, hear from you, from your perspective, how things are going. And you heard little bit from Linda and Shannon kind of about transition. So, and we can send you a copy of this if you don't have one, and we can send some notes, and the program is being recorded. So it's okay if you don't get everything the first time, because we'll go back over it again. But very excited that we'll have a couple of new sponsor organizations coming online here soon, which will be great. You know, there's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch, but I feel pretty hopeful that we're going to have 3 new sponsor organizations for July. And at that point, we will have, for the first time that I've been working with you all for 4 years, the first time that we have coverage around the whole state. So that is super exciting to me. So starting up north in Canada, where Julia works, we'll have a new sponsor for Whatcom County, which will be the Whatcom Council on Aging. So essentially they run the senior centers there, including the Bellingham Senior Activity Center. Chris Orr is the executive director for the Washington Council on Aging, and he's our point of contact. And they will be getting into a contract and then hiring a volunteer coordinator. They know the Shiva program quite a lot because our Shiva volunteer coordinators use the centers, and our staff use the centers a lot for in-person counseling. So we've had this kind of partnership with them for a number of years, and now we're gonna kind of just formalize that a little bit in the form of sponsor contract and volunteer management. So very excited about that. And then way down south in Lewis County, we are going to have a new sponsor organization there, also centered on senior centers. So this is a small not-for-profit organization called Timber River Connections. And basically it's a nonprofit organization that took over running the senior centers from the county a couple of years ago. And so they're a very small, but they got a big heart organization. So they'll be taking over in Lewis County. And tons of thanks to Pam and the folks at ODSWA for taking kind of overflow calls for Lewis County for a long time when we haven't had a sponsor, and kind of staffing that up. So very excited about that. And thank you again, Pam and your team. And then heading east over east and south then, we're going to have a sponsor contract with an outfit called Catholic Charities. Their headquarters is in Yakima, but they're going to be responsible for Benton, Franklin, Walla Walla, and Columbia counties. So I call Southeast Washington. And so we are working towards, I think we talked about this, but we have a package that the legislature is considering to increase our staff complement by 6 FTEs. And one of those would be a regional training consultant that would be responsible for Morgan and Kittitas, Daisy in Yakima, and then the new sponsor organization for Southeast Washington, so that we would effectively have 2 people, Noreen plus a new person on the east side of the state. So hoping that the new RTC will be in their seat for July 1. And meanwhile, we're also recruiting to fill behind the RTC role for Sarah Volpone and King County. So if everything goes to plan, then we should have 6 RTCs that work for Kendra and cover all 39 Washington counties with, I think, 19 sponsor organizations. So from this day, I'm feeling hopeful that on July 1, we're going to have a more full complement of support for us and for you, and most importantly for Medicare beneficiaries. So I guess that's my kind of number one update, is about staffing and regional territorial assignments and new sponsors. So for those of you who have been around for a little while, I just want to say thank you. You always do a great job of making the next new volunteer coordinator and sponsor organization feel welcome and help them get oriented. And we're very, very grateful for that peer-to-peer support. So please make our friends at the Whatcom Council on Aging, Timber River Connections, and Catholic Charities welcome in your group. And then all of you will be like much more senior than the newest person. So you'll just be like climbing right up to the seniority ladder there. All right, Eve, you want to take us back to the agenda, and we'll let Elena start talking about what she referred to as LMS, Learning Management System. Go ahead, Elena.
Actually, I'm gonna defer to you, Tim, on this. since you put yourself on the agenda explaining it, I was just curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So then let me start backwards then with the first part of it then. So our goal here, right, is that this is really a partnership between the professional staff that we have in the role of regional training consultant, as well as you as the volunteer coordinators, as well as then, you know, all of the volunteers and partners like Julia's team that are working out in the community, right? I think like ultimately it takes like everybody to lift up, you know, new volunteers, and how I describe the path to certification is like starting with a motivated layperson and helping them grow into being a fully proficient volunteer advisor. And I always want to take a second to say I'm not in any way meaning to discount all the other kinds of important work that volunteers do, because we have lots of volunteers who like to do other things besides advising, but my focus for today's program really is on those volunteer advisors and that path to certification. So the most recent significant change we made in terms of that kind of path to certification was to kind of remove from the initial kind of startup work people being required to take the online coursework at the ShipTA Center. And again, the reason we did that is I just feel like we want to get them as soon as possible into working with each other and working with us in this kind of online interactive kind of format, away from that sort of singular person-computer online experience. So we're going to continue to use that ShipTA Center. That's still going to be an integral part of what we do, and we're going to build up some more coursework out there and some more testing and examinations out there, but we took it out of being the first place that people encounter our training program, so that we could kind of move them into basic training as soon as possible, which I'm going to refer to as like instructor-led coursework. So later this week, then we'll have the kind of March cohort of people will be introduced to basic training. I think what I heard Eve say this morning is we have 21 people registered, and 16 of them have completed like their prerequisite work. So if you have a few people that still need to finish something, and Eve could tell you explicitly what it is for your person. And I think, Pam, you told me the other day that you're going to come back and just kind of experience it as a volunteer. You are all welcome to come and you know, sit in or audit basic training anytime. We are trying to keep you kind of apprised of what's happening by sending off the binders. That's what we call the kind of packet of printed materials that we send along to people. So in terms of updates to basic training, where we're at right now as we sit here, you know, a few days ahead of March, is that we've kind of substantially rewritten that program so that it has, I hope, like a more focused, kind of what I'm going to call like a persona-focused approach to create a platform for then the subsequent training programs that will follow. So what we're trying to drive out in this first program for basic training is, imagine a person who is aging into Medicare, so their eligibility attaches to being age 65 compared to being disabled, and they're going to enroll now compared to waiting. So they're going to exercise their initial enrollment period, and you know, everything kind of goes to plan. So they get Medicare Part A, they get Medicare Part B, and then they're going to get either a Medicare supplement plan with a Part D, or they're going to get a Medicare Advantage plan. So appreciating that that's a somewhat simplified case compared to reality, but just so that we can have some focus, we're calling that like the first of a series of instructor-led basic training courses, with the focus really being a lot on getting to meet your other peer volunteers and getting a chance to practice kind of being a counselor, letting you hear your own voice, imagining answering questions that you might get as a volunteer advisor. So what we're going to then kind of follow up will be a series of successive of these similar kind of orientation, basic training kind of programs. So next up will be folks who are not going to use their IEP, but are going to use their special enrollment period for people who continue to work past age 65, because that is, again, like a very common instance of what we're getting. So we would retread some of the same materials over again, like as a refresher, but we're going to say, okay, so again, focused on turning age 65 compared to younger disabled people. But we will get to that kind of cohort as well. So in this case, they're not exercising the IEP, but they're exercising the SEP. Then the two subsequent, again, I'm calling basic training courses, would be one organized around the Medicare open enrollment and one organized around the Medicare Advantage open enrollment. After we've got all four of those kind of in flight, then we're going to turn our attention to coming back to a younger disabled person starting in Medicare and talk about the transition of people from like the health benefits exchange or the qualified health plans or Medicaid, Apple Health into Medicare. So we'll pick up those other couple of paths. So obviously we're still focused on even taking all of those 6 courses together. We're talking about folks who are getting started in Medicare. And then we'll come along, of course, and we're working kind of in the background on then creating these smaller kind of module courses that will come back behind and explore all of those things that we covered at a very high level in basic training, cover all of those things in more detail, give people more chances to practice. So I'm referring to that whole kind of panoply of courses as like the instructor-led coursework. So obviously we, across, the last couple of years with the pandemic response, moved from in-person training to online training, but it's still focused on being instructor-led training, right? So Linda is working with a cohort of volunteers, or Noreen is working with a cohort of volunteers. So that's kind of what we have today, that like today's binder, this week's class, and that's kind of what we're building up towards relative to that, like instructor-led coursework where it's, right, small group classes. We're going to continue with essentially 10 months out of the year running those courses, and then we'll kind of reassess about how that's working, but that'll get us across 2025. So let me stop there for questions, and then I'll take up LMS and mentoring.
I'll have a question. This is Monica with AllQ. So I'm just going to back up just a little bit, just so I understand and all the volunteer coordinators understand, because we need to then relay this information to the new volunteer who is signing up for them to expect what to happen. And I encourage them to participate during these basic trainings. So the prerequisite information that needs to be done by the volunteer, is that only the privacy and the confidentiality information at this point right now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then as a volunteer coordinator, I'm encouraging them to do the SHIP TA modules and or read the Medicare and You handbook. That's what I'm having them do. It's very basic. And then they can refer those things to, the beneficiary can refer those, sorry, the volunteer can refer those things to the beneficiary. So then my second question is the basic training. So I see, I think it's for April. You have, I think it's for 3 days, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yep.
Okay. And so following up in May, is that when the other specialized courses are going to come in play?
I don't think we'll be
not
ready
yet.
I don't think we'll be ready for May. I wish I had a good solid estimate for you, Monica, but I don't.
Okay. All right. So then my other question is, because it takes a while for them to understand even the basic things, right? Can any volunteer come back and join that specialized training? And I heard you say only you wanted small classes. So is there a process that they need to sign up for?
Yes. So small to me, like if we can stay around like 22, like 24, like that to me feels like a manageable size. 18 is nice. But yes, for sure we will figure out how to stand up like open registration for anybody who wants to come back and have a refresher or just hear it again, for sure.
Okay, good to know, because we can, as volunteer coordinators, can encourage the new volunteers to attend those and send out emails. Like if we're noticing that they're having problems with certain topics, they can attend that and we can offer that to them.
100%. And honestly, it's great you know, what we're trying to do with the design of this is, if you haven't seen the workbook or attended the classes, is really to acknowledge that a lot of the learning that people are going to do and a lot of the practicing people are going to do is going to be outside of us witnessing it, right? And so it's really just meant to promote the idea that you're a lifelong learner, and do not think of us as the only source of knowledge or the only source of training or the only opportunity to practice. But really to like anticipate, you know, based on what you heard, I'll just say about you know, Medicare Part A covered services. Based on what you heard us do, kind of in a didactic kind of way, like this is how Medicare Part A covered services work. What questions do you have? What questions do you anticipate your clients to have? And what support do you imagine needing for us or other people? So if you had, like, I'll just say Don Kane. If Don Kane wanted to come and we could just say, hey, Don, you have lots of experience doing this kind of counseling. What kinds of things come up? What kinds of questions do you get about covered benefits for Medicare Part A? I think having someone like Don there would be a great learning experience for the whole group.
Okay.
So they're
Yeah,
always
that'd be
welcome.
good to have experienced people join in as well.
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. We would love to have them come, and applies to your community partners as well. So right, the folks at the Chaz Clinic, or yeah, because it's nice to kind of attach it to some reality, right? And I'm totally making this up, right? But if Don was to say, yeah, I had a person the other day who was confused about whether this was going to be a covered benefit, and I told them what you have to do is call the plan and say, I'm in Aetna and I want to make sure this is a covered benefit. And I told them, ask for the advanced beneficiary notice. Like, just having them bring their real life experience would be invaluable. And yeah, we're going to try with next month to move to 3 days, just because it still feels a little bit too rushed. It's a little bit too much of me talking at you and not enough of you talking with each other. But you're going to tell us if that starts to present a barrier in terms of people getting signed up or starting. It's a bit of a balancing act, right? We're trying not to like rush them through it, but we want to create some momentum. But, you know, 3 days in the room is a big deal for people. And even with daytime classes, we're still missing working people, and we're still only offering it in English. So we still have, right, there's still a long way to go to make that program as accessible as we wish.
And I see that the time changed a little bit. It looks like it's from 1 to 4 instead of 12:30 to 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So people can get lunch. Yep. Hey, Annette.
Yeah, several questions in terms of this training. Right now, the basic training is 2 days back to back. Will the 3 days be right in a row? I'm concerned that, having done training for retirement seminars, which I also do, and I bring in the SHIBA information for Medicare related, that there would be almost a system overload if there's 3 days right back to back. So is there a way that they might be either spread out, or there's some way that they're not, you know, and for some people, 3 days right in a row is not a doable option, that they
Yep.
can do some like 1 month and finish it the next month?
100%. Yes, we would welcome that. Yep.
Another question was, as modules are added, is there going to be some flexibility on days of the week that are there available for existing volunteers to also take or review them? Because like right now, I have one volunteer who routinely does Wednesdays, another one routinely does Mondays. And so I know myself, given sometimes the days I've committed to counsel, I'm not able to take some of the CMS stuff because I don't learn about it in a timely manner to rearrange my schedule for appointments.
Yes. So the answer is yes. We're gonna do that. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but we're aware that that's kind of how the world works, right? So like if you're a volunteer in Tammy's group, they do exactly what you said, right? So Charlie Sheldon says, I work every Tuesday in the morning, 8 to 12. And so if you schedule training then, I can't make it, right? Because that's my shift at Sound Outreach. So yes, what we're going to end up having to do is say, and I'm just using the for instance, Annette, that you brought about, you know, David working on VA module, right? So we might have a 1 hour long training program that David's going to help us run on VA benefits. And we can't just only offer it on Tuesday morning because Charlie will never get there. So we have to say there's a Tuesday morning and a Thursday afternoon, or it's run on the first and third Thursdays, or we'll figure out a way to have like MyWord sections where that program is offered repeatedly across a month or across a quarter.
And how about, what about consideration for Saturdays?
100% yes. Now that's a little bit trickier with paid staff, right? Because Linda's got to clock 40 hours, only 40 hours overtime. But yes, we will figure out inside of our team how to do that so that there's some kind of option for evenings and weekends. Coursework for sure, yes.
Well, I just been thinking that, and I don't know what all the ins and outs of staff, and I know that Governor Ferguson has been looking at everybody having a day off per month, which makes it even worse. But within our union office that I'm familiar with for our area of the state, teachers that oftentimes will want one of the office assistants to work on a Saturday. So as a result, she gets a choice of a paid day off in the next couple of weeks. You know, it's trade that works for her schedule, so she can eat as far as she likes to go out to lunch with her mother.
Yes. So we will do some version of that. And while we're on the subject of the budget, I'll just say our office, the Office of Insurance Commissioner, is a separately elected official. So we're not part of the governor's cabinet. So and I for sure don't mean to say the governor wants furloughs. No one wants furloughs. No one wants an unpaid day off. They're just trying to, navigate the budget shortfall that they're forecasting. But things like the 6% reduction or like the unpaid day off do not necessarily apply to our office because we are a separately elected official. So Commissioner Cooter will make her own decisions about whether or not we kind of follow along with what other state agencies are doing.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Remains to be seen about that. Yep. How about other questions before I move to LMS and mentoring and take as much time as you want. That's why we're doing this. I'm not trying to rush through it.
Actually, I have another question.
Sure.
And it's obvious that we've got a lot of looks like some wonderful new people coming into our works again. As you know, I'm not only a VC, I do a lot of counseling, and I really think it's important, and maybe it's my background as a teacher, that whoever is in that role is familiar with being able to counsel in Medicare as well. And so that, I guess my bias is I'd like to see every VC have to do at least half a day a week counseling, just so they're on top of issues that come up and occasionally run into one of the really, I'm going to say, off the wall clients that it's like it's what you hope you don't have that you'd like to give to somebody else. We have a few of our own that we claim up on Whidbey Island. I'm sure everybody else has those too. And it's like, I see a name and I go, oh no, not again. Because it's some kind of bizarre, legitimate bizarre situation that's come up. So, and yet I know a number of our VCs don't do any counseling. So how do we get around that?
I prefer that they don't counsel. I prefer the volunteer coordinators work exclusively as volunteer coordinators, and that the volunteers in your group who get those difficult kind of arcane questions, that they get referred over to our professional staff for help. And my motivation, Annette, is just that, our contracts are not super generous. So I'm just like looking at SAM as an example, right? Like, we don't provide enough funding to Solid Ground, SAM sponsor, to cover the cost of Sam and his program assistant. And so with the little bit of time that I have for Sam and his program assistant, I want it devoted full time to recruit, retain, recognize volunteers, not counseling clients.
Well, I guess it's just, I just know that the kinds of questions I've had been asked over the years, and it's like, I'd like to be able to give them an answer in a timely manner. Now, sometimes it's taken, even with this assistance of staff, it's taken a while, or and sometimes the answers we get is not the answer to the question that was asked. So,
Yeah.
because it's like gossip. By the time I give you the question and then you give it to somebody else and somebody else, it's changed.
Yes.
And it's no negative on anybody's involved. It's just that what I perceive as the problem, 3 people down do not perceive the same problem. And it's the more direct information that I think a VC can give their volunteers, the better the service is going to be. And it's one of my pet peeves, but that's not a problem, is because of the nature of our geography, Camino is considered part of a different unit than Whidbey Island. And it makes total sense to me why it is. And yet, if I can answer a client's question about a drug plan or a question about a supplemental plan, which are the same everywhere, I will do that. But if it's a plan, a program that I don't know anything about, then I will pass it on to the Snohomish unit at Edmonds Waterfront. Because for me, it's the sooner I can give the client an answer, the better our perception and our view of the client is of our service, and the spinoff is usually more positive.
Yeah, so for sure, you and I are 100% agreement about in terms of the kind of client satisfaction with the program, making that cycle time, goodbye, Malin, making that cycle time be as short as possible to the answer, the right support. Shortening that is absolutely the right way to go. It's definitely a balancing act between like local people, counseling local people compared to taking, instances that, right, can I wait to enroll past age 65 because I'm retiring from the state of Washington? There's no reason anyone in the whole state couldn't answer that question, right? So there's this balancing act, but for sure, putting a premium on a right answer quickly is absolutely what it's all about. And in the next program, I'll have some more, the next time we all get together, I'll have some more to say about some ways that we're exploring to try to make that go faster and better. Before I move on, I just want to acknowledge that for folks like Monica, that are, and you, Annette, that trained as counselors like counseling, I'm not trying to tell you stop doing it. I'm just saying, as we bring on the next cohort of volunteer coordinators, it's not a priority for us to teach them to be Medicare counselors. But I'm not trying to displace those of you who are doing it and enjoying it or learning your way into it. I'm just saying, like, as an ideal, that's the direction that we're steering. And it's just about the reality that we don't have enough funding to, send out to contractors to support doing both of those things consistently well. Okay. I can see we're not going to get through our entire agenda, which is fine. But let me talk a little bit about mentoring, because Sam brought that up. I feel like, for those of you who have not heard me say this before, I just feel very strongly that this needs to be, the Sheba program needs to be run by volunteers, that this should be a volunteer directed program. And so my goal in whatever time that I have the privilege of being here is to just keep moving us that direction as much as possible to really minimize the role that the staff play and optimize the role that volunteers play in every aspect of the program. And of course, that starts with mentoring. I think besides, being technically right, besides the volunteers teaching people, what's a Medicare Part A covered benefit or not, or how to answer a question about that. I think the volunteers, besides that, are uniquely qualified to carry on kind of the values and the ethos of the program. And they just have a unique credibility that as staff, we're never going to have. And so for me, mentoring is sort of like, is the essential aspect of what volunteers need to be doing, that peer-to-peer coaching, that mentoring relationship is to me like the centerpiece of the whole program. Again, I'm focused on kind of, a lay person becoming a proficient counselor when I talk about mentoring, but I really feel like the instructional support that we provide, right? These like instructor-led coursework and all the resources that we can refer people to out in the world, the authoritative sources and the online training and the CMS bootcamp. At the end of the day, I feel like the very most important lessons and the essential learning comes out of that peer-to-peer counseling. And I feel like, you know, candidly, what's happened is I have just been slow. The program has been slow to adjust to the reality that, you know, I think in my mind, how I would describe it is like two things happened kind of coincidentally that really kind of put us off our path a little bit. So the first thing was that the network of experienced volunteers in local areas was shrinking faster than we could replenish it. So as much as we were relying on people in a NETS group mentoring other people in a NETS group, as groups started to shrink, it became harder and harder and harder. Like and this is, I think, what Sam is describing in King County. We got super lopsided, right? The number of, say, novice volunteers started to outstrip the number of experienced volunteers, right? So we kind of got capsized in a way, right? Historically, we had, like, I'll just say a NETS group, they had 10 experienced counselors and one new one would come. And now we're just exactly in the opposite position, right? We have in Kittitas County 2 experienced counselors. So when one comes, it's a 1-to-2 relationship. When the second one comes, it's a 2-to-2 relationship. And then it's 3-to-2, 5-to-2. And we weren't built around that, right? And some of that is about it being localized, right? Because that was just historically how we did things. And some of that is just about this, the ingress and egress of experienced volunteers compared to new volunteers. The second thing that happened is, of course, the pandemic happened. So kind of overnight, we went from 100% face-to-face counseling to 100% phone counseling. And so we had really built a business model where mentoring meant that you literally, like, you know, a NETS group would say, we're going to be at the hospital in Freeland on Tuesday morning. That's my shift. You come to the shift with me and you can watch me and listen to me. And then I will watch you and listen to you. And then you will become working independently. And now we'll send you to we'll send you to a different outreach site that we have. And then when the new person comes, you will then recreate that same path. And when the pandemic happened and we were not sitting with our clients and we were not sitting with each other, we just have not adapted to that reality. So we have 2 like really significant structural things that we have to make up. And in the short term, it's going to be about using technology smarter, and it's going to be about putting people together that don't work in the same local area, because that's the only way that we're going to get there, because we continue to see, right, the most experienced longer term volunteers leaving. And meanwhile, we just did this recruitment campaign where I think Donna's going to say we had like 300 people around the state reach out to volunteer coordinators, right? 300 is compared to like 200 active volunteers, we have 300 applicants. So, right, do you see how we're just like, we're completely upside down, and they're mismatched to the area as well. So we just have to figure out how to organizationally have that other different model for mentoring. And so for us, it is about embracing some different technology. And also, I feel like for us, kind of as the central office, we historically have had a very, very hands-off relationship to the whole business of certifying volunteers. So even today, the way that it works, and I swear I'm not making this up, right, is like in Bellingham, we have this great volunteer, Scott Opsel. There's no volunteer coordinator, there's no sponsor. The group is still just running along. And then Scott will say, exciting news, we have a new volunteer in the group. And I'm like, that's so interesting. I wonder how they got there. And I don't really care. I'm excited. And then 6 or 8 months later, Scott will send me a note and say, well, I've been working with them. They're ready to start working independently. Send them their Medicare unique ID number. And I'll be like, great, thanks, Scott. And the whole time I have no line of sight into what's happening up there. I am totally taking it as a matter of faith that Scott is great at mentoring and that person is ready to go. As a bureaucrat, that makes my stomach hurt a little bit. Like I am like sending a brand new person out there that I've never met and saying, you're going to be a great counselor because Scott said so. There's no documentation at all of anything that you and Scott did together, unless it shows up in STARS, and then probably Scott put it in. So there's a whole bunch of like infrastructure that, in my mind, this needs for us to have a sustainable program of mentoring on a going forward basis, right? So part of our solution to that is we created a contract with Washington State University They have, of course, 4 credit classes, and then they have what they call like community education or enrichment classes. And they use this system called Canvas, which they call their learning management system. So we did an interagency agreement with them so that we're going to say, we want to use your platform to kind of put a foundation underneath of mentoring and courses across the state. Because right now, again, you know, we're friends, we can talk freely, we're being recorded, but that's still going to just go to friends. Like we don't have a routine way of tracking, and I'm just going to, Monica, again, pick on Don Kane, but so we offered 10 CE programs last year. How many did Don go to? I don't know. I literally don't know. Like as the central office, I cannot track one individual volunteer's training at all. And that's just like in the long term, that's not okay. We have to be able to say this person had 100 hours of training. They did 10 about Medicare supplement plans, 10 about Medicare Advantage plans, 10 about prescription drug Part D plans, 10 about enrollment, right? And I don't have any of that right now. And I think for the long term, we have to figure out how to build that out. And it looks to us like starting with this LMS system is how you do it. So we're just working our way through kind of standing up that technology as a platform, but we're pretty close to like a launch that's going to look like saying, and then Monica, again, forgive me, I'm going to say, hey, Don, you know, we created this system. We would love for you to try it out and see how it goes. And go in there and sign up for a class and do some coursework, and it's going to get recorded. And then we're going to have a conversation with Monica about your experience, and we're going to learn from that experience, and we're going to cycle forward kind of in iterative fashion. So let me stop there for questions because that was a lot.
I have a question.
Yep.
So it sounds like the training is for the volunteers to be mentored. Were you planning to have any training to like train how to mentor?
Yes, for sure. Yes. And I think, Sam, that's how I sort of think about it, as if it's like there are some skills that generalize, but the skills of being a mentor are kind of substantially different than the skills of being a counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we would have kind of this, again, path to certification for the next new volunteer advisor. And then we would have like mentor academy for the people that want to be mentors and kind of learn a related but different sort of set of skills that are about that peer coaching, right? That are about observe, give feedback, provide kind of a developmental critique of the person's performance, offer some support, be in this kind of like informal relationship between the new volunteer and the volunteer coordinator, right? So that, and Julia, I'm just pretending, right? We're going to say like, so Julia is a brand new volunteer and Elena is her mentor and Kelly is the volunteer coordinator. Like there would be a 3-way conversation about like, is Julia having a great experience moving through this the way that we want? What do we feel good about assigning to her? And then let's keep checking in kind of as a triad. But yes, Sam, I think like there's a separate but related whole set of courses that I'm going to call like Mentor Academy for lack of a better word. And in that package, the legislative package that we have that ultimately would result in 6 more people, one of those people would be another person doing work like Elena is doing, because with one person, Elena, in Elena's chair with Amy's support, we're simply never going to get basic training stood up and mentoring stood up and LMS stood up and a mentor academy stood up. So we've got to have more staff support. So I think we honestly, long-term, still need even more than 2 people doing that work. But in the short term, ideally, second person comes in July, and then we have a conversation in our team about how does Elena and the next person together continue to move us along that path.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think for you, Sam, in the short term, what it looks like is we'll get this LMS system stood up, and then we'll be coming back to you and the other volunteer coordinators and saying, in so many words, you all have developed lots of great kind of organic homegrown products that you're using can we please have a conversation, borrow some of those, and put them in the LMS system for other people to access?
Tim, are you using the LMS system for the volunteer to track their training and if they're attending CE?
Yes.
Okay,
Among
so
other things, but yes, it's going to be our
So-
attendance and time reporting.
doesn't STARS have the capacity of doing that as well? Is it?
It does a little bit, yes. It does a little bit, yes. And I think we will, and we'll have to figure out exactly what this looks like, but we're going to be using both for a little while. So for those of you who came in a little later, I was in Seattle on Saturday for a local event, and Sam sent 2 of his volunteers to have a table, have brochures, answer questions. That to me, like, I think, and I'm open to ideas, right, Monica? But I think that kind of time reporting is going to stay in STARS, right? Because it's not really training per se. And in my imaginary perfect world, we're also getting people to clock, like, it took me an hour to drive back and forth to the event. Like, that's real time that we should be counting and getting credit for, right? And I think that is going to just stay in STARS. But I think like the CE programming, if you imagine like you signed up for CMS NTP bootcamp in the summer, I think we're counting, like, tracking that kind of stuff. Certainly mentoring, right? If you sat with a mentor for an hour, STARS is not perfect for you. You should both get credit for that hour, but it's hard to attach both to one BCR. But this would work, like you can both clock an hour, and then ideally, right? And again, my imaginary perfect world, I can see like, oh, great, Julia clocked 1 hour of Med Sup, 9 more to go. Oh, she did 1 hour of MA, 9 more to go. Oh, she did 1 hour of Part D. I could kind of unbundle the experience of mentoring that she's having in a way that I can't right now.
Okay, so another question. As our agency, we have to report how many hours that they're doing. And right now, a lot of it is going undocumented because they're not entering in their CE trainings and all of those things, right?
Yes.
Are the VCs going to have the ability to access to run reports?
Yes.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll make it easy that you can just kind of like, you can put their time in for them, right? You can just say, we had CE, 18 of my 20 volunteers came, they all got 90 minutes, and shove it all in there.
Okay, because currently what I do is I write down who attends and
Mhm.
I'm entering in that way for those that don't do regular counseling.
Yep. And that would make you like a super positive outlier. In a good way. Yes. Because, I mean, they deserve credit and you deserve credit, and it helps us get a better sense of what our capacity is, right? And the service we're providing. I'll just say, I'm going to go sideways for just a quick second. So we do have this package that we're asking for the legislature to include in the budget bill. And I am going to send you and your organization leadership a note saying, if you're able to lobby and you want to lobby, I'm going to tell you how much work happened in your local legislative district so that you can relay that back to the elected person that represents you, right? 2 in the House, 1 in the Senate. And honestly, it's just going to be like a dramatic underreporting because we're not getting enough of that data, right? But in the short term, it's what we have. But as an aspirational goal, yes, let's figure out how to make it easier to report and capture all those hours. It matters, right? I mean, it's a very persuasive story, right? I mean, like in the 37 district where I was, right, Representative Santos, it's very powerful to say, in this part of King County that you represent, we have 10 volunteers who clocked 10,000 hours and helped 10,000 clients last year. Like, that's very powerful. And if it's really 20,000, but I'm saying 10,000, then that's too bad. Elena, do you want to add anything here about LMS?
Yes, I would like to give you something concrete rather than just talking over it about it. but I need Team for you to allow me to share files in Zoom so I can share material.
Fire away.
Okay. So I hope you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sharing LMS, right? I'm sharing Washington State University website.
Yes.
Okay. So this is what is already available and available for use for anybody who wants to take basic training. The plan was to enroll the people who just finished basic training, not face to face, that a team created, and they can jump into this. So it has several modules. So this is our introduction website. It has several modules, and each module is designed to outline, cover essential Medicare topics. You see module 1 is Medicare overview. You can see some of the things that included: initial enrollment, enrollment choices, Medicare costs, and it accompanied by discussion board where people can discuss either cases or discuss the material and post their replies to the discussion board, and others can join and either reply to their posts or have their own posting. It has quizzes that they can take unlimited number of time, so they can continue checking their knowledge. And it has just regular Q&A questions for each module if people have questions, they didn't understand material. And right now we also have, for every module, we will have resources that Shiba provides. Shiba created resources, and we'll have survey where people can tell us what they thought about the module, which parts of the module worked for them, which ones did not, so we can continue improving the system. So I'm just kind of briefly giving you an overview, and you can see already some modules already have links to the resources that are provided by Shiba. So right now we have 7 modules covering Medicare overview, enrollment periods, Part D, Medicare Advantage, Part C, Medigap, Medicare Assistance Programs, and Plan Finder tools. So far, we have all these modules available for people to take, to complete assignments, to complete quizzes, to complete tests. Any questions so far? Oops, I'm sorry.
Elena, can we ask people to respond to a link from you and spend a little time in there?
No, I have to register everybody. Everybody who wants to, yes, we can register them all. If VCs feel like they want to just browse the material and give us feedback, you're welcome to. But I'll just need the names of people. So, because every time we run people through registration, we're paying for it. So I would need, so to speak, submit the bulk registration list, so it's cheaper for us to register people. The idea is that people will have access to the material for, it's not quite determined yet, but between 6 months to a year. But it does not mean that we still hope that they're gonna complete the course within 2 months. That's kind of an ideal, so they don't lose momentum in their learning, and we'll have suggested schedule for them to follow. But again, it is designed for people to be able to use it at their convenience, right? To accommodate kind of everybody's learning style, everybody's schedule.
So maybe for today, if you will send Elena a note and let her know if you want to be registered. My preference is before we have a real formal launch and some time to introduce you and the volunteers, let's keep it to the staff and volunteer coordinators and not jump out to our sort of real volunteers. But we would love to have your feedback, please.
I thought we already launching it beginning April 1st for volunteers, Tim. I think that was decided in the works.
I think we're not ready for that.
I have a couple of questions about that.
Please.
So for the timeline of when they would get onboarded onto this, in the future when this is launched, would this be after they attend basic training or before?
So I think this is going to be a little bit, Sam, like what Monica said about the SHIP TA Center. So I think we're going to be very permissive about kind of how people chart their own course in terms of using these materials. But I think it's going to be important for us that you get a chance to see it so you know what's happening so that you can help support them across this process, right? And support the other volunteers, especially the mentors, right? It's not going to be good to have a new volunteer kind of pinballing around between coursework and platforms and pinging you and the mentors with questions that they're not expecting or ready to handle.
My other question, is I found any new application requires a lot of tech assistance. Is the college going to provide tech assistance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's provided by the college. And also I have scheduled office hours that if people have questions once a week, they can pop into office hours and I'll help them navigate the system.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, I guess, a little bit informal, but they really are they're essentially acting like a person who lives in Spokane and is taking an enrichment course through the Washington State University. So they're providing that same level of, help desk, if that's the right word. They're providing that same level of support, right? Forgot my password, forgot my login.
So once that we feel that they are ready to be certified, is there a final exam or is those just those regular modules along the way that they've passed that subject matter and we move forward?
Ideally, there has to be a final exam, there has to be certification. We should be able to certify them and tell, yes, they completed this course.
So Monica, I think what we're talking about is the difference between the ideal state and the real state. So in the real state, if you say they're ready, they're ready. And we're going to keep working towards formalizing what certification looks like. But for sure, I do not want to be in the business of clipping your wings as a volunteer coordinator. You say that person is ready, they're ready. Hey, Dave.
No, I'm having a hard time following along. So for people who want to be a volunteer and they want to go through training, they during that time, they're owned by you guys. Then you cut them loose to say, Dave, now go ahead and mentor and do that stuff. Because they go to you for that training piece. Now you're saying they can go through the training piece on their own at their own time, and it's whatever, and it's online. Is that right?
I would say not quite. I think of us. Can I use the example of Ed, who works with you? And for those of you who don't know, this is our friend Dave Aldrich, who is the volunteer coordinator, worked with Marky and Eva, Olympic Area Agency on Aging, Grace Harbor and Pacific Counties, Aberdeen. So yeah, Dave, I think using your person Ed DeBeck as an example, I feel like at this point, you're the arbiter, right? You're the person that says Ed is ready, and I do not want to revoke that from you. I like that it's done.
He went through training with you guys. Then he was with me and he got screened and he showed some sets of focus and stuff, cut him loose on some stuff, guided him along the way and that kind of stuff. In regards to, but in the past, you guys technically own him until he came back and said, I've been through basic training and we're not going to do it that way anymore.
I think we are doing that. I think the way to think about it is we're still on that model where we're doing so-called basic training for them. And I think what we're saying is we're offering with the LMS system, like an alternative basic training program that's not instructor led, that's more self-directed, but you're still in that place where you're going to help them with the mentoring and get across the finish line.
All right.
So in a perfect world, it'd be like,
You won't have classes where there's a group of people together going through it together.
correct. So in a perfect world, it'd be like you would be his kind of, you would introduce him to the LMS system, and you would say, hey, just like if I could imagine it, like from someone responding to the mailer, right? That you would do a screening conversation, orientation conversation. You'd be vetting them. You'd push them over to Eve for the background check, and then you would say, hey, let's hop you into that April basic training program, last couple of days of April, and then I want to expose you to the LMS system, and you would be kind of helping and like shepherd them along through the process, right? So that at the end you're saying like, I feel like you're ready to fledge.
You're not going to do basic training groups anymore like you're doing right now.
We will still be doing that, yes.
Okay.
And
Yep.
ideally, we're gonna have cohorts of people enrolled in this basic training via LMS, and they're gonna have individualized feedback on every assignment they take through LMS.
I'm sorry, Elena, could you repeat that? They're going to have individual?
They're gonna have individualized feedback on each assignment. Like, for example, they enrolled in a discussion, right? And there is an instructor who will review their input on a regular basis and provide them with the feedback. So they're gonna have feedback basically in real time within, let's say, 48 hours, with the exception of weekend, that they will get feedback on how they're doing on the assignments, whether they're on the right track.
Oh, they'll have a virtual person that's going to
It's
be.
not like they're there on their own with the material. No, if it comes to discussion and they participating in a discussion, there is somebody who they can always reflect on each other's participation, right? But there's also somebody who is looking to be sure that they're on the right track and they're not misrepresenting some information when they're solving the case that presented to them.
Good to know. I think it'll be helpful when this does go live for us to go in it as VCs and do some of the modules. I know you don't want them to know it, but I think it's important for them to know how to find material and how to tell their volunteers on what to expect and how to do it.
100%.
So knowing that, Elena, is helpful, that we can tell them that. Thank you for that.
And yes, and if we go ahead and we enroll all VCs into this program, again, I will be available to you to answer all your questions, how it's working, what needs.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Elena.
I would agree with Monica on getting involved in it. I also want to know, at what point do I start having my new trainee work with one of my volunteers as a mentor, where they're being mentored? Do the two mesh together, or do they need to go through the LMS first before they see live people? They don't. Okay, so they can actually start getting involved and observing and then starting to do counseling. Hopefully they've got the knowledge base for the general ones that come up. And I see an issue. The only issue I see now at this point is, how do I make sure that when we get information or we have clients for appointments, that the new volunteer is not going to be in a situation that's over their head? In other words, we've got somebody who's trained and comfortable with turning 65, the very basics of Advantage versus supplemental, and then all of a sudden somebody's coming in and they're a DSNAP that's backfired, where they've had problems with the DSNAP. Do you understand my concern?
I do. And I think that that's where, it's, I guess, what I would call like matching, like we're trying to match the people to the cases. And so I think that is where back to the conversation you and I were having, Annette, that's where it's nice for the volunteer coordinator to have like foundational knowledge about Medicare, so they can say like, that's super hard, that's super easy, that's, you know, you're ready, you're not ready, right? But I think it comes down to case matching. Nothing about LMS should put you off the practice you already have in place, right? So, you know, again, I'm very comfortable with that we have sort of distributed or delegated to all of you, so that I'll just say, I've been picking on you all day long. I'll just say Sonia. So if Sonia has a brand new volunteer, and Sonia wants to say, come to CE next week, great. Come to basic training next week, great. Start sitting with me when I'm out counseling, great, right? I'm very comfortable with Sonia helping that person kind of find their depth and work with other people and work with us in whatever way makes the best sense for Sonia's next protege.
Okay, but I guess what I'm concerned about is, you said I like the idea of case matching, but too oftentimes I don't, unless I actually go in and pre-screen a lot of the clients, then case matching doesn't always work. My favorite complaint about the OIC's phone number is that needs help with Medicare. That's it. No specifics. Now that I've gotten some was, as a retired eligible for VA wants more information. Hey, I know what to do. Or has looking for help for a parent who's going to relocate from out of state. I have a much better idea, but needs help or has question about Part D drug. The last one that had question about Part D drugs ended up being an 1.5-hour session, finding Part D plans for both of her parents, both of whom had over 12 drugs, and in the right area, and not knowing what pharmacies existed in the area. Fortunately, it's an area I kind of know because I taught in that area, so I was able to pull up some maps and come up with what worked. But we need more help from the people who's on the OIC level, as well as on my organization level, as to what clients are wanting and needing. And we're working on it at our end at the local level, but we need it from you guys too.
And that 100% agree with you. So I think that there's like fraternal twins, right? So like the mentoring system, for it to be fully effective, it also has to have that like case matching aspect, right? And we have to figure out how to manage referrals back and forth between us and inside your group better. So at the same time, we're not going to have time today to talk about it, but we're working on that technology solution, which I'm going to refer to as a ticketing system, so that whether the person fills out a form online or whether they're helped by someone in the call center, or whether they call you or show up at a tabling event, that we're going to have a better way of getting more information about them right from the outset and sharing information about the client as we move through counseling with them. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. I have a solution in mind that I think can support that. And I'm not ready to kind of give you much more about it today, but it's like on the horizon. We're actively working on it. So 100% understand what you're saying.
So I want to respond to what Annette said from the angle of an organization that has a really successful screening process before we have Medicare patients come in. Since we're a small team, we just do our own screenings, but everybody schedules for everybody else. And since we started screening for Medicare, and it's pretty short questions, we essentially take 5 to 10 minutes to ask the question. Sometimes it's even less. It is just so much more smoother to get our staff prepared for the appointments and get our clients in and out in a timely manner, and case match, of course. Like, for example, if it sounds like it's going to be conditional Part A or Part B, then they know that my staff knows that they probably will need to either refer the patient to me or have someone with OIC help on that one. And it's that screening process has saved us time and time again.
Yep. So on behalf of Shannon, we would love to know more about what screening process you've got in place, Julia.
Yeah.
I
Of
think
course.
the short-term challenge for us is like, in general, the expectation. It's not like as formal as an expectation, like shows up in your job description or your performance evaluation, right? But generally, like the expectation for the call center is 90 seconds. So how can we in 90 seconds accomplish what you're doing in 5 to 10 minutes? Or how can we start to, bridge that gap, right? But the utility of it is 100% for sure. We need to do that.
And I bet that the call center can do it in 90 seconds, because a lot of what we're doing in 5 to 10 minutes also involves questions about the clinic. We tend to be pretty detailed about the information we gather.
Yes.
And I imagine that the volunteers probably don't need as much information as we do, because we do a couple extra steps that the volunteers don't do.
Yes. But nonetheless, I think we need to move closer to where you're at, right? Like we're just not getting, Annette did a nice kind of spontaneous example, but we're not getting enough information really to make a great handoff. And that just has consequences that kind of cascade down the line, right? In terms of they're not showing up ready for their appointment, or they don't even need an appointment, right? Or they need an appointment, but not a priority compared to somebody else, right? So
what we found with the screener is that one of the biggest changes is we don't have anybody coming in anymore who doesn't need an appointment. And that has been great for the flow of our work. And one of the things that has been really successful in this screening has been our transfer to a system where you cannot schedule. I mean, you can schedule, but you cannot finish your call notes without answering those questions. There are hard stops in our system. You have to put something in that text or you can't move forward.
Yes. So I appreciate that insight, and that's where we're going to try to be moving towards with this ticketing system, right? Because it makes a weak handoff, right? Otherwise, and there are some, like Celeste works in a group where they do have some kind of speed bumps along the way to an appointment, right? And they do some like the day before phone calling for people to try to help better appointments. So I think across the network, there are some best practices that we have to figure out how to glean those and share them back to, right, our 3 new people. I'm, my pretend volunteer coordinators that come with my pretend new sponsor organizations, so that we can just accelerate that learning. But yeah, I think you're just ahead of us, and we need to just follow on and learn from your experience.
I'd be happy to share any information. We forward a lot of clients to Sheba because we used to serve the whole community, but we are a team of 6 now. Some people don't even do Medicare, and the ones who do have a whole other part of their job. So we don't have a ton of Medicare capacity, and it would feel really good to know that when we're giving the patients who don't go to Unity Care that Sheba phone number, that they are going to get a really good warm handoff.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I know our friends at HCA and DSHS and Social Security all feel that same way about how can that be a great handoff for the INA offices, right? Like everybody wants that to be a great handoff, and I think we have to kind of level up as a partner to help make that happen. So let me just do time check with people. I'm at the time that we scheduled for today, so we can either let go, or we could just recontract for another 10 minutes or so and have a quick preview about libraries and senior centers. If we have to stop now, we'll just schedule another time soon for that. What is there a consensus in the group?
I'm free until 4, so.
Me too.
I'm really actually looking forward. I want to hear what the other subjects are, even though if they're just a quick 2-sentence.
Right. How about other folks? Do you want to hang around for another 10 or 15 minutes? I'm not staying till 4, Monica. I mean, I would stay till 4, but I have another commitment.
I'm glad personally to stay for a little bit longer so we can talk about the library and senior center project.
All right. Eve, could we have the map one more time, please? The fun, colorful RTC map. And if
Yeah, one second.
if you need to step away, then that'd be fine, of course. All right. So I guess it's there, but I don't have my view set the right way. Eve, if you're sharing it, I'm not seeing it. What am I doing wrong?
I just shared it.
Okay. Super. Thank you. Okay, so Kendra, I'll start and then you can finish, okay?
All right, we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
I don't have anything prepared is what I'm saying.
Oh, well, and if you don't want to, that's okay. I do not mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll do what I can, as always.
So I have two, okay, thanks, Dave. I have two motivations here with this project that we're calling Library Senior Center Project. And the first motivation is I feel like organizationally, like as the OIC, we just had a very difficult experience of open enrollment last year. And we didn't help nearly as many people as wanted help. And as with the conversation with Julia a second ago, I feel like one thing that we could do that would have helped, that I think can help this time around, is people being better prepared for appointments if they need one, and we can provide that, and helping them just be better prepared to do self-service as much as they're able to, depending upon, you know, their personal circumstances. So that's the first motivation, is like, I just feel like we have an unrealized opportunity to help a lot more people than we did last year, and specifically in those two ways. The second, for me, reason for making this a priority and taking this on is that I'm very concerned that long-term, we just have to build more capacity in our network where there are sites that we have a reliable, consistent presence for people to get a one-on-one, face-to-face conversation with a volunteer or an in-kind partner where there's privacy, technology, resources. And I think libraries, especially because they all have broadband access, broadband internet access, paid staff, public transportation, generally good website technology presence, they are like our natural partner, and they're politically neutral, and they get, you know, literally like community support, right? We pass a levy to pay for the library. So they're like a community resource. And with senior centers, essentially the same thing. I feel like they're going to be part of our solution in that same way as libraries. And I think they're also going to help us advance, again, that idea that I talked about at the beginning of the program about this needs to be a volunteer-driven program, that is peer-to-peer counseling, that we can use those experiences of the senior centers to kind of leverage that shared experience that seniors have and kind of promote them helping each other with whatever degree of skill or aptitude or training that they have, and kind of make a you know, potentially a very small dent in the problem of social isolation that we're experiencing. So I want to like try to say this as clearly as possible. What I don't want to have happen, I don't want us as the program staff to take away from you as the local partners and the volunteer coordinators the opportunity or the responsibility of maintaining these, choosing these sites, maintaining them, building these relationships, fostering those partnerships. I'm not trying to like supplant that. So I know, for instance, Monica has had long-term great relationships with the libraries like in Whitman County, and she goes there on the regular, and they do counseling and they do presentations. And I don't want to do anything to disrupt the work that you guys are already doing out in the field. So whatever Morgan is doing in Kittitas, I want Morgan to keep doing in Kittitas. Whatever Daisy is doing in Yakima, I want Daisy to keep doing in Yakima. I just want us to come alongside and provide some support for that, and kind of like at an institutional level, help support the efforts that you guys are doing on a local level. So for instance, for me, like a substantial outcome of this project is going to be that we're going to create a folder. I call it Peachy, right? Like a paper folder that has a pocket on each side, and it's going to help direct people to do either, again, better appointment or better self-service. And that we would, and I'm totally making up a number now, right? But we're going to ask the library in Yakima, and I know there's more than one library in Yakima, but we're going to ask the library in Yakima, hey, we have this resource. How many of these would you like to have on hand under the counter? Because I want to be able to tell people they can come to the library and pick up a packet. If they need help getting started, if they're not sure how to navigate Medicare open enrollment, we have a packet that they can walk away with, that they can get from you. And I want to make that available kind of statewide. And we can finance that effort. I can find the funds to do the production, the delivery, all of that kind of stuff, so that it, again, it's supposed to support the work that you're doing. And I'm saying libraries and senior centers packet. The second thing I would like to figure out how to stand up across that whole network, I'm a little bit finessing the number, but say about 250 senior centers, 350 libraries around the state, is to reach out to them and say, do you have a person that could, with a modest amount of training, help someone create an account at Medicare.gov? Do you have a person that could, with a modest amount of training, help someone engage with the Plan Finder tool? So again, they either complete their work through self-service, where they show up better prepared for the appointment that we have with them. I'll say one more thing before I pitch it over to you all for questions or Kendra for follow-up. For me, the essential, this is going to sound funny, but I'm deadly serious. The essential part of this is we're going to put an envelope in that folder, and it's going to say in big letters, put all of your mail in here, instead of recycling it or burning it or putting it away and forgetting about it, because we just had scores and scores and scores of people swear up and down no one told them anything was changing for last year. And I know for a fact that they all got notices, but they didn't understand that that's what it was, and they didn't take action to do something about it. So we're just going to stand up this campaign that's going to be like, I have an envelope for you, and I want you to put stuff in it and bring it to an appointment. Anyway, that's what I've got for you.
So I'm wondering if, as part of this program, would it be possible to put together something like a handout that clients can pick up at the library or the senior center, or that my staff could hand out, that would be an instructional, like with really clear pictures, very simple wording for how to use Plan Finder and how to select your own plan?
That's what's behind it. Yep. Think like infographic, big print graphics.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you already mentioned that.
You can watch and read. I didn't kind of talk about the contents, but yeah, something like that would be in like what you would pick up would be like, so if you want to give it a try, because to me, if you can shop on Amazon, you can use the Plan Finder tool, right? So here's like a one-pager that says create an account, right? And in my imagination, Julia, it's like in this space, right in the username you picked for yourself, in this space, right in the password you created for yourself, right? And then there's like another different one-pager that says, write your prescriptions on here, and it's organized like name of the drug, dose, frequency, right? The doctor, that would give them some very simple, and I do not mean this as if they're not bright, right? Or disorganized. It's just to help guide them, right? If I'm going to give you a handout that says, if you call and ask for help, you're recording the name of the agent, you're recording their license number, right? Yes, but yes, and we want all of your ideas. I'm hoping that pretty soon we can have like a mock-up for you of what it looks like, and we can get some quick feedback from you.
We did something like that for open enrollment, I think in 2019. Not sure where it would be at this point, but
yeah, if you have anything to share back, that would be great.
Yeah.
And that goes for everybody. Any like clever ideas you have about stuff you've used or stuff you think we should use, we would love all of that.
I currently do all of those things, Tim. And I also provide them with the Medicare and U book. That seems to be, that could be really helpful for OIC to send. the branches their own 25 copies. I
Yep.
don't know if that's possible, but that is something that beneficiaries do use. And
It is
then,
possible. That would be my fallback, Monica. I would love for them to bulk order their own. I would love to just give them the form and say, fill this out and send it back with how many you want. But we can definitely drop ship them, and we will put some in fulfillment that they can order after the fact.
yeah, and also with the Medicare savings plan with the new brochures, I just noticed I went to a couple of spots last week and a lot of them have old brochures. So
Yes.
waiting for those new ones to come.
And I think they're out there, so we just got to get some for you. I mean, I think I should know that, but I think they are.
So I'm going to do a quick voiceover on what Tim covered too, just so I can, for my own benefit and hopefully for yours, play back and say, this is what on the Sheba side we're doing, and this is what we're planning to ask of you wonderful volunteer coordinators. So on our side, we're putting together that folder of materials, and Tim calls it a peachy, but his wife, who is in our public affairs team, said you are not allowed to call it a peachy. So I'm calling it a folder. And inside that folder, it will have these beautiful, easy to read materials that will help beneficiaries figure out what their next steps could be. What support will we give them during open enrollment period and outside of open enrollment period? How can they find their local sponsor? Just this full meal deal in a beautiful folder. And we will then print those and make sure that all of the libraries and the senior center locations have those that they can then give out to beneficiaries. So please go ahead. Somebody has a question? No?
You have your hand.
It's you,
I was looking and I'm like, I think it's that it's here. Hold on, let me change it. Will it take my thumbs up instead? Okay, modern technology is really tough some days, and today it is. So I've raised my own hand and I'm taking my own question. So what's the next step, Kendra? I'm going to tell you. Thank you. The next step is we're trying so hard to get contacts across the entire state at every single senior center and every single library. That is no small task because, as Tim said, we're looking at hundreds of locations and hundreds of contacts. So we're working on that. And then another big piece that we're working on is how we can provide that training, that basic level training to any library or senior center staff who's willing to walk a beneficiary through the basics. We can't be everywhere all at once as much as we'd love to. None of you can, the volunteers can't, we sure can't. So the goal is to maybe come up with a video with that infographic that Tim mentioned that says, hey, here's what you can do in advance of open enrollment. And here's how you set up your Medicare.gov account. And this is Plan Finder, and here's what you can do. So we're putting those together. On your side, what we are going to be asking of you is that you may be asked to reach out to libraries in your region to ask if they have that staff member who'd be willing to learn about those basics. We're going to have your regional training consultants reach out and coordinate with you to figure out which senior centers in your area are in most need of help, meaning those that we don't often visit, that we don't often support, that may be in more financially downtrodden areas. If they're in low-income areas and they don't have a lot of support, they may really welcome a one-on-one time block for counseling. And then that also could come with a $500 contract if they allow us to have somebody there, meaning a volunteer. So this may be something on your plates. And then, Monica, I love that you thought about the Medicare and You handbooks, because that was also something we had talked over. How can we let them know that this is something they can order in advance? And so I think that covers most of it, Tim. Tell me what my gaps are.
Nope, I think that's good. And I feel like since we have shrunk a little bit, we should probably not go too much farther so that we're not having to leave people out or impose on the people that are here to catch up the people that aren't. But I think that's a great review. What do you have for us, Annette?
Yeah, I think that's a good beginning, but I think there also needs to be a recognition that there's going to be a percent of the population who does not want to does not have access to computers or even Wi-Fi. Rural, we have a lot of that in parts of here on Whidbey, and we're not that far from any place. I can't imagine what it's like in parts of Eastern Washington. So that's an issue. I have a number of people I've talked to will, do you want to set up a Medicare and you account? And the first answer is, oh no, I don't want the government to know. Very adamant that they don't want the government to know. And there are some other issues. So I think we need to be careful on how we word things so that it doesn't seem like you have to do this. But wording it that maybe it may be easier for you if you do. But a lot of people, I'm going to say probably 40–50% of my clients that I deal with that are not involved with PEBB do not want anything to do with my Social Security or a my government account. And that's going to be even more tricky with the changes coming with Social Security requiring them to have one or to have an in-person appointment now to apply for Social Security, supposedly starting April 1st. And I hope that rolls back. But there's a lot of stuff out there that people are, and I don't know how much of it is a result of recent happenings in the last 60 some days of, with information being garnered from various agencies and people I've talked to a few people on the phone and they're just paranoid. And I have had 2 calls specifically from clients this last week. Well, with all this stuff, I know you keep track on me, and is there any way that the government's going to find out that I take certain drugs? There's a real paranoia out there right now.
Yes, I think that's real, and I think we will not convert those people. And that my goal is more like all the people that we just completely missed last year, right? I mean, and you all know this because we were corresponding with you, but for most of open enrollment, this was our experience last year. A person would call 1-800-562-6900, and we would say, I'm sorry, we're sending you back to 1-800 Medicare. We were not even doing that 90-second check-in with people because I had no help for them. So I'm less interested in converting those people than I am in just providing some basic level of support for the hundreds of thousands of people that we missed last year because we couldn't even answer the phone.
And Annette, I think what you said is so smart because you're absolutely right. I think people are skeptical and they are fearful. And I think what that speaks to Tim's point toward the beginning of this when he said people will often be more open to talking with a volunteer who is knowledgeable than they would be to a government staff member. And I think that's, again, some of the power that you wield in your positions, because then you have these volunteers who can go out into the community and maybe they won't want to go to a library with their high-speed internet and set up their Medicare.gov account because, I don't necessarily want the government to know what medications I'm on either. And they may not, but they may be willing to talk with a volunteer during a one-on-one counseling session, and they may be willing to take that folder, not a peachy, but a folder, and page through it and say, okay, I can keep this paper copy of everything, so that they at least have some of those tools. And thank you for saying that, Annette. I appreciate you.
What do you have for us, Monica?
Kendra, could you repeat the part about the senior centers and possibly having a contract with $500? I heard bits and pieces of that.
Sorry, that one. So that one's, we're working on it. So we have this big old map of Washington State, and I'm scared to put my hands up now, even though I talk with my hands. We have this big old map. I'm going to put them here in my armpits of Washington State. It includes every senior center and every library location. Now, with senior centers, because some of those in the more rural or poorer areas, they don't get a lot of funding. They may be primarily or completely volunteer driven. They may just provide meals to seniors, very limited hours. We are trying in this open enrollment period to reach that. That is one of our main goals, is to reach these places where seniors go, where we have not been able to provide a lot of support. And so part of that is we're hoping to get volunteers to commit well in advance of open enrollment period to, during open enrollment period, go for a 4-hour block and have that very rural senior center host us. So we know it's an area where they need our help. We know it's an area where we have not been. And if in those areas where it's mutually agreed upon between you and your RTC, if there's a volunteer that can go and they're willing to host us, we may be able to put together a $500 grant or a contract to help just to give them, to maybe it provides meals for a week at that senior center or a month.
Are you guys picking specific locations that
Well,
to offer that?
That's what the answer is yes, but the answer is yes and no. We will not as much be picking them as you will along with your RTC. So you will combine forces and look at that map and say, this area really needs the help. Is there a senior center there? And Tim, just step in if I'm missing anything.
You're doing perfect. Monica, I guess it's like, this is where I don't know your area, so apologies, right? So think of Colbert, right? So we talked to Marianne Grafton from the Washington Association of Senior Centers the other day, and she says, new senior center opening in Colbert. So I said, terrific. Like if you, Monica, had a volunteer that could go there, or if you and Noreen could agree that there's a date and time that Noreen can go there and schedule appointments, then I will give them a contract, like an event contract. So $500. What you're agreeing to do is some basic like advertising, put a sandwich board outside, put something on the bulletin board, announce it at meals, and then host us, right? So have a sign-in sheet available, ideally technology privacy. If you'll do that, we'll give you $500. And I'm more, I mean, no offense, right? But I don't need to go to Linwood. I need to go to Colbert.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm actually talking with a director tomorrow, and in just that capacity, I'm looking to have volunteers at each one of the locations and kind of rotate for them to be there once a month.
Yep.
The problem being is having enough volunteers on the day that they're available to do that.
Right.
In addition to that, since we are a government agency, we have to be there with them because a lot of the volunteers don't have laptops. So we provide them the laptop, the Wi-Fi, all those things. So it involves a little bit more. I'm working on it, but it's good to know. I'm not going to mention anything to the director that I'm going to talk to, but it would be good once a lot of our volunteer corps gets a little bit more experience and is able to be at these locations.
Yes.
You're ahead of the game, Monica. That's for sure. I'm so sorry. I have to go to a second meeting. So thank you so much. It was lovely seeing you. Thank you for being here.
Bye, Kendra. Yeah, the way you're describing it is exactly right, Monica. And I just can't pre-commit Noreen or Linda, or Rosie, Shannon, but we will try, if there's just a place that is such a high priority, like that relationship is really important, and that center would really attract people that otherwise we wouldn't reach, right? So like Marky, if that's the McCaw, and the only way it's going to happen is if I send Linda, then I will send Linda. Right. So if we can't figure out how to get a volunteer there, then I'm open to having a conversation about us as staff covering some of those that are, a strategic priority. So we just have to start soon enough so that we can coordinate right across October 15, December 7. How many places can we get? And, it's like kind of icky to be picking winners and losers, but, there just are some places that otherwise are going to go without. And I want to kind of have them rise to the top. Does that make
I'd like to
sense?
say kudos. It says absolutely makes sense. Yes. I do want to say appreciation for your staff to put out the videos for the lunch and learns and some of the recorded videos, the fraud ones that have been missed. I know volunteers
Mhm.
really like that. So
Okay.
thank you very much for putting that out there. Because they feel bad that are missing it, but they had other commitments. So we
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. That's great feedback. I honestly have not taken the time to check and see like what the traffic is. So it's nice to know that people are using them because we love doing it. And
Well, and as a VC, we can support that, right? It's like, hey, you missed the meeting. This is recorded now. So go out and take a look at it.
Yep. 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 Okay, so I feel like my group is shrinking, so it's probably time to stop.
Yeah.
But I love this conversation. Thank you all for your engagement and your great questions. I think next up will be you should have a note from Eve saying we're going to do like open house for the website launch April 3, right? 11 a.m. So please watch out for that. And as soon as we have more news about the budget or staffing or other programmatic changes, we'll be reaching out to you about LMS and basic training. But thanks for coming today. Please do reach out to the other folks that couldn't be here today that you work with. And again, really thanks for this time. It's always great to see you all.
Thank you, Tim, for doing this for us. It's much appreciated.
Anytime. Great to see you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.